Welcome to the Plato Paradigm, a paradigm shift in reading Plato's dialogues. Episode 81, Meno 72, A to D. One of the most interesting things about Meno's answer, in which he's just given a lot of different types of arete, very generously, is his memory. He has a very good memory. He's recited, possibly, an answer that Gorgias had given at least once, probably more often than that. And Meno has carried it off with confidence and with an apparent air of understanding what he's talking about. This is the sort of answer that Socrates should have expected, so let's see how he reacts to it. Po legetini utachia eoika kechrestai Menon e mian zeton areten, smenosti anioreka areton parasoi kemenon. I seem to have been the beneficiary of some great good fortune, O Meno, if while looking for one arete, I found a swarm of arete virtues lying beside you. Socrates didn't choose the image of a swarm by accident. Atar o Menon, katatauten ten ekona, ten peritas mene, emu eromenu melites peri usias hotipotestin, pollas kai pantodopas eleges autas enai, ti an apicrino moi eise eromen, ara tuto fes pollas kai pantodopas enai kai diaferusas elelon to militas enai, e tuto men uden diaferus in allo de to hoion e kale e megethe e allo to ton toiuton, e pe ti anapecrino hutos erotethes. But Meno, according to this image about swarms, if when I asked about the essence of a bee, what on earth it is, and you were saying that these are many and all sorts, what would you answer me if I asked you, are you claiming that in this they are many and varied and differing amongst each other in that they are bees? Or in this, do they not differ, but in some other way, such as in beauty or in size or in some other of such things? Tell me, what would you answer being asked thus? The Greek word I've translated as essence is ousia. It's a noun derived from the verb to be, and we may understand it to mean being. The being a bee, this is what Socrates wants to know, the being a virtue. What is it that because of which a virtue is a virtue? Socrates was actually asking about virtue altogether, and as an analogy, we should now be wondering what be altogether is. Not a bee, but be, beeness. To be fair to Meno, this is the first time that Socrates has made it very explicit that he is looking for the essence of virtue. Socrates seems to think that Meno would understand the essence of bees more readily than the essence of virtues, and he seems to be correct. Tut egoge hoti udendia ferusin, he melitai esin, he heterates heteras. I would say this, that they don't differ in that they are bees one from another. Eun epon metatauta, tutatoinon moi auto epe omenon, ho udendia ferusin ala tauton esin hapasai titutofes enai, eches depu antimoi epen, egoge. So if I said after this, tell me this thing itself then, Meno, that in which they do not differ but are all the same, You would claim this to be what? You would no doubt be able to tell me. I would indeed. Socrates is still using the same sort of formulation which Gorgias uses, and which Meno therefore also uses, to be able to say. This goes back to the original question. Are you able to say, eches moe pen? Here he again uses exactly the same verbs. You would no doubt be able to tell me. And Meno says he would. Now, think about this. What is it that makes a bee a bee? Can you say what a bee is? It's interesting that Socrates doesn't press Meno on this point. He goes straight on to talk about virtue again. Meno does what befits someone who knows by saying that he would indeed be able to say, without actually saying what a bee is. We could say that a bee is the animal connected with honey production, but does this actually tell us the essence of a bee? If we say that it's a flying insect with black and yellow stripes, is that the essence of a bee? Not all bees are like that. Not all bees produce honey, so this is a problem. It's not really a problem for the dialogue that we don't know what a bee is, but by analogy, if we cannot give the essence of a bee, this isn't very promising when it comes to finding the essence of virtue. Socrates doesn't press the point because he's not concerned with the essence of bees. The whole discussion about bees was simply to emphasize that Socrates is looking for the one thing which doesn't change in virtue, by which virtues are virtues. Huto de kai periton areton, kan e polai kai pantoda paesin, hengati e dos tauton, hapa saechusin diho e sin aretai, e sokalos pueche apoblepsanta ton apocrinomenon to erotesanti e kenodelosai hotun chaneusa arete. Thus too concerning arete, virtues, even if they are many and varied, they all have one and the same aspect through which they are virtues. And it would be good for the one answering the one who asked to look at this aspect in order to explain that thing which virtue happens to be. Socrates finishes the question with a formulation which Meno might understand. He treats arete as a thing, but during the question he refers to the eidos, and an eidos is something like an idea. They both come from the same root, which is to do with seeing. Both idea and eidos are aspects. When they're used together, idea is a general aspect and an eidos is a specific aspect. For example, you could have an idea of furniture, but an eidos of chairs underneath the idea of furniture, and an eidos of tables. The aspect is that feature common to all members of a particular species. I say species, but species is simply the Latin word for eidos. It means aspect. Nowadays we talk about genus and species, and this is because genus replaced idea quite early on. Already in Platonic dialogues they are used interchangeably. Genus would have been something like a family group of which there are members, but it just came to mean a kind or type of which there are species. Genus and species is less consistent than idea and species, where idea and species are both aspects. I don't think Plato should be blamed for the preference for genus. Plato rarely invents terminology for the speakers in his dialogues. It's interesting that Socrates says that he's looking for the eidos, which is in every type of arete. He should be looking for the idea of arete, because there are many types of virtue, and each of these virtues is really an eidos of the idea virtue. Justice is an eidos of the idea virtue, just as courage and sophia and sophorsune, self-control, are. Meno isn't any the wiser. Socrates could have said idea just as easily as eidos, and Meno wouldn't really notice. We recall that Meno has categorized virtues by a different criterion, namely roles appropriate to each type of person. If we were to look at the eidos of all the various types of virtues which Meno has listed, we might have come to the conclusion that virtue, the idea, is a task befitting a type of person according to age, social status, and gender. If we did conclude this, we would be agreeing with Meno himself, who ended his answer with just this summary, presumably made by Gorgias himself. Meno clearly doesn't understand the significance of the summary. Having explained what he expects Meno to say, Socrates asks him if he understands. Eu manthane sotilego, don't you understand what I'm saying? And Meno says, Dokogemoi manthanen, umentoi hos bulomaige po katechoto erotomenon. I seem to me to understand. Not, however, as I wish do I grasp what is being asked. On the one hand, Meno doesn't want to appear stupid, so he says that he thinks he understands. On the other hand, he can't possibly answer the question, and for this reason he has to say that he doesn't quite grasp the question. In other words, he wants Socrates to clarify, and it saves him from having to answer. It seems that Meno hasn't fully grasped the principle Gorgias teaches people in order to appear to be like people who know, which is to be able to answer any question with confidence and magnificently, with generosity. He did it once, but now he's forgotten. He no longer has the ability to answer Socrates straight away. He doesn't have to be correct in his answer, but he has to be persuasive. So far as Socrates is concerned, it means he has a chance of educating Meno, because Meno isn't completely Gorgian in his thinking. There's still a chance that Socrates could teach Meno a better way of learning things and understanding, and this despite Socrates not knowing anything about virtue.